Shine bright up all night, we're never slowing down. Fall in love, drunk mistakes, we're bound to hit the ground. Gotta keep this feeling, keep on breathing, even if we're slipping away. So I close my eyes and lose myself now. Do it like it's only today. We got a party for a lifetime. No, we ain't stopping for the sunrise. No, we don't care about the bad nights. And for a second I can feel like this. Make me feel like this. We got a party for a lifetime. No, we ain't stopping for the sunrise. No, we don't care about the bad nights. And for a second I can feel like this. Make me feel like this. Young blood made of gold, a mind you can't control. Running wild, can't come down. My head is in the clouds. Gotta keep this feeling, keep on breathing, even if we're slipping away. So I close my eyes and lose myself now. Do it like it's only today. We got a party for a lifetime. No, we ain't stopping for the sunrise. No, we don't care about the bad nights. And for a second I can feel like this. Make me feel like this. We got a party for a lifetime. No, we ain't stopping for the sunrise. No, we don't care about the bad nights. And for a second I can feel like this. Make me feel like this. Shine bright up all night, we're never slowing down. Fall in love, drunk mistakes, we're bound to hit the ground. Gotta keep this feeling, keep on breathing, even if we're slipping away. So I close my eyes and lose myself now. Do it like it's only today. We got a party for a lifetime. On the day we are together again. On the day we are together again. I will pull you in close like a hoop with no end. On the day we are together again. We will share the same table again. We will share the same table again. I will pass you the salt, the candlelight will bend when we share the same table again. We will walk around the block hand in hand. We will walk around the block hand in hand. We will stop for a snack at the taco truck stand when we walk around the block hand in hand. Someday we will go back to work. Someday we will go back to work. May we be among people who respect our work. Someday we will healers who keep us alive. To the healers who keep us alive. A toast to your courage, knowledge and light. To the healers who keep us alive. And the ones we love who are gone. And the ones we love who are gone. We remember the stories and we sing the songs for the ones we love who are gone. And on the day we are together.
Well, hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. Appreciate your time. It's good to see you all. Today is January 14th, 2024. It's good to see you all inside chat. Hope you guys are staying warm. We're about to get a bunch of snow, freezing rain, and bitter cold temperatures. So, yes, I'm living my Tiger King dream today, my fantasy darling. So. This is not, it is a popular case, but it's not really popular on social media, but it spoke to me and I wanted to talk about it. So, a doctor, a neurosurgeon doctor who is 53 or 54 years old, lives in this home right here. Lives in this home. That is a nice mansion. He lives alone. Great doctor. Wonderful reviews. They said he not only was good at his craft, but was an equally good, decent, caring individual who helped people resolve their pain issues. He's a neurosurgeon. Well, he lived alone, like I said. He was found murdered. And the last place he was found was up here in the attic where he was found with like a bed sheet. He was found naked with one black sock on, with like blankets and a rug over him. It was the window cleaner, Esme says. Well, you may not be too far off, Esme. We'll have to see. But this has been unsolved for, I think, about 10, 11 months now. Now, this home is located in Detroit, Michigan. It is obviously a very well manicured home. Was the boy okay? What do you mean the boy? I don't know what you mean by the boy. So I want to talk to you about this case. The doctor's name is Dr. Devon Hoover. Hold on, let me turn my phone off because it's blowing up. And like I said, great. Why would he live in that big home alone? Because he's a neurosurgeon and he can, I guess. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of. He did live in this home alone. Now, Dr. Devon Hoover was, from what I understand, a part of the LGBTQ community. He was in a long-term relationship for uh, in the younger, I guess, years of his life. He was still friends with his ex, from what I've read, so allegedly, and he still even, gave his ex money, from what I understand. His ex father cleaned for him. Uh, it takes a lot to upkeep the grounds on this property, right? I mean, the yard work, the cleaning, it's never ever done. But what's more, inside the home there is valuables that is beyond. Now, shortly after he was found, what happened was, he was supposed to be at some event or party. They did a wellness check. They went to the door and he didn't answer. So they went ahead and went in, and police aren't telling us, but they knew immediately that something was wrong. They're not giving us why something was wrong. Was there a dinner for two? Was there something that just they knew something was wrong? Again, they're not telling us because this person is still on the loose. Now, the good thing about this is they believe they have a good indication of who it is, but they won't tell us. Now, we're going to go over a few things on this. I want to show you guys. Just the home was absolutely immaculate. Let me show you a picture of Dr. Hoover. This is a photo of Dr. Hoover. Very, very well loved, respected man in the Detroit area. All right. Bear with me 1 second.
1,000 square feet of classic decor and art. Dr. Hoover would often open up his home for fundraisers and social events. In all, the doctor was living his best life and helping others along the way. But on April 23, 2023, when Dr. Hoover did not show up at a family function, police were called to do a welfare check.
So it was a family function. The cause of passing was he was pew-pewed from behind. He likely never knew what was coming to him. I have a feeling, in my opinion, this is someone that he may have been dating. He had, from what I understand, a few to several kind of short-term relationships, flings, if you will. It feels like a lover, in my opinion. Now, he was found nude with just one black sock on. You don't know. Very handsome, very, look at the grounds.
And when they arrived at the mansion, no one answered the door, so police went inside. That's where they found Dr. Hoover's lifeless body, the victim of a violent death. Who would want to murder a man who was loved by so many and helped so many more? Tonight, we take a look at the evidence, the mansion, and the autopsy of Dr. Hoover as we investigate the murder at the mansion.
I'm surprised this hasn't really Macon, made a, in this early 50s. This hasn't been a big
Politan, thank you for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. And we cover a lot of stories involving unsolved cases, missing people, murders that haven't been solved. And these are extremely painful and problematic on many different levels. But primarily, number one, you've got killers or killer that is on the loose, poses danger to others. Then you've got victims that are not getting justice.
So Dr. Hoover's clearly one that's not getting justice yet. However, they did predict back in the summer that by the time the snow would be falling, they thought they would have an arrest. They immediately arrested someone right after Dr. Hoover was found. However, they unarrested this person, from what I understand, and they have since found someone else in their, I guess, being a suspect.
So when we talk about cases that are unsolved, keep that in your mind at all times. It's serious. And unfortunately, these days, in some cities around the nation, the number of unsolved homicides is rising. And that's problematic, a big, big problem. But cases, even if they're not solved immediately, even if they're not solved within a few days or the first 48 hours or the first 48 days or the first 48 months, they can be solved. And we see it often here. As a matter of fact, the Delphi murders, Abby and Libby, took 5
Yeah, Abby and Libby, the Delphi murders, took 5 years. We had a photo of the guy, and it still took 5 years. Now, a lot of homicides are not being solved, and we still have DNA and stuff, but criminals are also getting smarter with knowing about technology, and also just the manpower of not having enough police.
5 years for an arrest in that case. Should have been quicker, in my estimation, because this guy was on the radar early, but somehow got caught in the bottom of a pile of papers in the most high-profile case in the history of that jurisdiction. But nonetheless, it took 5 years, but investigators stayed on the case. They followed some leads. They made an arrest. They haven't gotten a conviction yet, but at least they've gotten to that point, which again gives you hope. There are unsolved cases. They can be solved. They can be solved. Another case, Kristen Smart, this one took like 20 years for her family to get justice, but they finally did.
Yeah, Kristen Smart, it took forever. I don't think this case is going to be like this. I do think there's going to be an arrest soon. I absolutely do believe that there's going to be an arrest soon here. They immediately said there was no danger to the public. In my experience and what I have seen, that says a lot. That says that they know that this person was out to get Dr. Devon Hoover and not anyone else. And it also says that that this person was just obviously angry, and more likely a lover, or someone, possibly an ex, possibly, I don't know, I just feel jealous lover or ex or something. Was he essayed? Very good question, WC. They did a rape kit on him. I should not have said that word. It's going to pick it up. But
it was delayed a long time. They had a suspect in mind, but they couldn't put enough of the evidence together to be confident enough to bring it to trial, because you only get one shot. In our system, you bring someone to trial, you can't prove it, they're found not guilty, it's over. It's over. Even if you get more evidence later down the road, you can't try them again. And that's the way our system's built, rightfully so. But at the end of the day, sometimes this delays justice and delays arrests and prosecutions. Sometimes investigators think.
So very good. What someone just said. Where was that? Maybe a one-night stand. See, I don't think this would be a one-night stand, because this is someone with, you got to have anger, you got to have rage to do something like this. Also, particularly when someone is unalived that you generally know and or have had feelings toward, many times the killer will cover the face of that person. They don't want the person, even the dead, they don't want to see the dead's face. Dr. Hoover was found face down, his head covered in multiple layers of blankets and rugs and all of that. He was also carried up to the attic. So they wanted to make sure that it took a long time to find him, as long as possible, right? That took a lot of energy to carry, 150-pound man dead weight. Now, if it's dead weight, it's even takes a lot more energy, even more so.
God, we know who did it. And the prosecutor's like, well, I'm going to need a little more evidence. We need to tie a few more.
Oh, I missed it. Alibi, thank you so much for becoming a member, my love. Welcome to the family. Appreciate you. You guys, please welcome Alibi to the family. It's very kind. Appreciate your membership, my
Or
dear.
loose ends. So when I bring this inside a courtroom and there's a competent defense attorney on the other side attacking our evidence, we want to make sure we've got the right person, number one, but number two, that we can prove it beyond any and all reasonable doubt. Having a suspect and knowing who did it is different than being able to prove it in a courtroom. And that's the test. And that's the call that has to be made ultimately by DAs across the country, who have to take a look and evaluate the evidence and say, is that enough? Will that be enough for me?
Over by the time that snow hit the ground. Well, here it is, and loved ones want to know, where's that announcement?
We're prepared to have an announcement before snow hits the ground.
As snow covers the ground in Detroit this week, loved ones of Dr. Devon Hoover aren't thinking about how cold it is. They tell me that they're thinking of that statement made by Detroit police at a police commissioners meeting on August 31st.
So on August 31st, they said that they, plan on having an arrest before the snow hits the ground. Well, that's saying by wintertime, more or less. The snow has hit the ground in Michigan, Detroit, and there is still no arrest. Now, will it be coming soon? We are in the new year, January 2024. So an arrest could be coming literally any day, hopefully. Vet Girl made a comment, very true, Vet Girl. His car was found away from the home dumped. Yes. And I believe wholeheartedly that they know exactly who did this unaliving. I believe that they're keeping their eye on him or her, but most likely a him. And I believe that was to kind of throw off investigators, in my opinion. I don't think it was for anything else. There was nothing taken out of the home that was any value at all.
It's been 7 months since the 53-year-old Detroit surgeon was found dead, shot in his home, and nearly 3 months since that announcement was promised in his murder investigation. Best friend of Devon Hoover, Carol Gove, says she and family have heard nothing.
It's a huge rock on my head. It's like, it's not just me, it's just pressing. If the police don't have anything, then just say so. I can accept that. You know, it was wrong information. It was wrong to make a statement like that. They don't have anything. Or if they do have something, they do know who it is, but they can't make a conviction or, feel that they can get a conviction, then just tell us anyway.
I reached out to Detroit police to ask for an update and an interview on the investigation. I was told that no one was available and nothing has changed.
Do family and loved ones feel that there has been enough transparency in this investigation?
No.
Great question, K9 Rules. Did they find his cell phone? Yes, they did. And whoever this person is seemed to be invited into the home, at least we think. And if, nowadays you have to talk to someone at some point on the phone, the internet, social media of some sort. So I'm sure that they have definitely went through his phone and combed very closely through.
No.
Former federal prosecutor Abed Hammoud tells me it's possible Detroit police aren't debriefing anyone to make sure that crucial information doesn't leak. He also pointed out that police have said the case may be domestic and that
makes it more difficult in the sense that you can't just say X's DNA was in the house, X must be a suspect, because if it's an acquaintance, you expect to find their DNA in the house. So it makes it more difficult to investigate and prosecute.
In that same August meeting, police said that they are working on a to-do list for the prosecutor's office. Hammoud says work on that list, like reviewing electronic evidence, can take months. And the announcement that loved ones are waiting for may come when that list is complete.
I just want it to be over. I just want them to say something, just so we can just put it to rest.
Crime Stoppers of Michigan is offering a reward for any information that leads to an arrest in this case. In Detroit, Sarah Michaels, 7 Action News.
It's tough. You've got to line everything up. And as I've said, I believe that they're very confident that they can put the pieces together, but they're still apparently in this process. So let's learn more about what's going on here. Joining me tonight in Los Angeles, California, senior reporter for DailyMail.com, Caitlin Becker. They've been all over this story. Caitlin, great to see you tonight. Let's start with Dr. Hoover and a little background about who this man was. I mean, everything I've heard sounds pretty amazing, pretty impressive.
He was a neuro.
So one thing about this home was after they found the body, right after, like a day after they found the body, someone broke in this home. They broke in the home. Now, was it because someone wanted to come back and take evidence of some sort? Did they forget something? The home had been obviously processed, but did they forget something? Or was it just thieves who thought, okay, we know that there's no one living in this house. There is millions and millions of dollars of art and collections of different sorts in this home. Let's go in and steal some stuff. We don't know even still today.
Neurosurgeon, that in and of itself is impressive. And Vinny, we have covered cases like this, you and I, for years. And it's so often that people come out in support of these victims I've not seen one quite like this in some time. There are Facebook groups. There's just been an outpouring of support from loved ones, colleagues, nurses, fellow doctors, former patients. This person was, by all accounts, beloved in the community as a human being and beloved as a doctor. As you said earlier in this setup for the segment, he used to host big events at this palatial estate that he lived in. He always invited people into his home, his family, friends, neighbors. Everyone seemed to care for him.
I'm looking at this neighborhood, I'm looking at this mansion, and it's incredibly impressive. And you go inside that home, and it's so meticulously decorated and classic stuff inside. And to me, that speaks volumes about, you know, the type of guy.
I mean, look at that home. That is incredible. Does he have brothers? Not that I'm aware of. I don't know that question. But I do know that his mother was I believe she was on her deathbed at the time. I think she died like 4 or 5 days later after his murder. SL, thank you so much for 6 months, my dear. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Tara Blue, thank you so much for gifting 1 membership, my love. I appreciate you more than you know. Very nice area, but blocks away, horrible area. Yeah, this is Detroit. I mean, just an impeccable decorating in this home, and just the best of the best. I mean, he's a neurosurgeon.
He was, this is a guy who did amazing work inside the operating room and owned this home that's almost like walking through a museum of sorts.
It looks like a palace a bit. This is someone who you could tell took pride in what they had worked.
So his home was a little over 12,000 square feet as well. Justin, my aunt doesn't live far from him, and neighbors seem to feel it was someone he knew in their opinion. Absolutely bucket list. This is definitely someone that he knew. I feel like this was a form. I feel in my heart of hearts like he dated or messed around with someone, and it just didn't work out, and this person couldn't take the fall of just saying, you know what, we're not made for each other. Yeah, I believe it was definitely someone he was dating, for sure.
For and kept a really beautiful home, and like I said, constantly invited people into it, hosted different kinds of events. But as you noted, it's meticulous inside. So when police arrived to do that welfare check, the fact that something was amiss was very obvious to them when they got inside the house. We don't know specifically what it was that first alerted them to there being an issue, but something clearly stood out, which is what led them to the discovery of the body.
So let's think of that. You walk in this house. What could it be that they immediately knew something was wrong? It could have been that there was 2 placements at the table, that dinner was going on. It could have been just there was a scramble, things knocked over. It could have been something in the bedroom. Obviously, in my opinion, I believe he was rolled up in his bed sheets. I don't know. He was found naked, and that could mean 2 different things. It could mean he was being, they were being sexual at the time, or it could mean they took his clothes off to hopefully, they think, at least, to hide evidence. So it could be two different things.
Yeah, I want to put this up on the screen, some of the other information that we're learning about this man, this case, this story, this unsolved case. 53 years old, special interest in neck and back disorders. I mean, when you talk about that, this is a guy, you have a doctor like this. He gives people incredible relief from horrific pain, right? So after he does his surgery and treats you, you are just so thankful for the work that he's done. And this is very precise work. This is a guy who spent his life helping others, like with these hands. You talk about the hands of a surgeon. He literally had the hands of a surgeon. But the thing that struck me is what patients said about him, that it was more than like a doctor. Like, we've all had doctors, and they're great doctors, but they're not like very warm or personable. That's what we heard about Dr. Devon Hoover.
Absolutely.
Drew, that's a very good point. If he was being intimate with this person at the time, that would show that he was, comfortable enough to be intimate. But the problem is they think that he was pew-pewed from behind. Now, after things were done, you could be standing up and be pew-pewed from behind. But we'll just, we still really don't know at this point.
His bedside manner was lauded more by his former patients in his passing than his skills as a doctor. And we know his skills as a doctor were absolutely top notch. He was a neurosurgeon. You have to be pretty brilliant to be able to do that and be successful. But what his former patients and what the nurses and the fellow doctors have come out and said, it was more about his personality and how warm and welcoming and what a wonderful human being he was, not just the fact that he was a brilliant doctor. So it really boggles the mind that he would die in such a violent way and in a way that seemed so targeted. This does not seem like an accident.
Now let's talk about he's living in this huge house, but he's living by himself.
Yes, he is living by himself in this.
Angela, had he had problems before? I'm just wondering why the first thing family did was ask for a welfare check. Great question. So, Dr. Devon Hoover was always early. He would never miss an appointment, especially without giving someone a notice. This was a very important family event, and they had tried to get a hold of him and try to get a hold of him and try to get a hold of him, and they knew immediately something was wrong. This was totally uncharacteristic for him. So that is when they called the welfare check.
I think it's something like 12,000 square foot home. And one thing we don't have a lot of information about is some of his closest personal relationships. So we know he was living by himself. He was 50-some years old. He was not married at the time. So it does kind of leave a question as to who he was spending some of that personal time with. And as police have said, they do believe this could have been domestic. So I don't know if it was perhaps an acquaintance or an intimate partner that they are looking at. And police have had a couple of suspects or persons of interest in mind throughout this investigation, but we don't know who they are.
And didn't they take one into custody like almost immediately in this investigation?
This was back, I think, in the spring, maybe late April. They had someone in custody. They were questioning them. We didn't get a name as to who this person was or how they knew Dr. Devon Hoover, but they were known to be at least an acquaintance of.
So in one of the articles, let me find it here. It says Hoover's lifeless body was found wrapped up in a plastic sheet with a single pew-pew wound to the head. Now, if there was a plastic sheet, does that mean there was some planning in this? Was this, not a crime of passion To me, this seems very planned. Forgive me, but I don't see someone coming in this home normally with a GUN strapped to their side, right? I just don't see a doctor or the people around Dr. Hoover carrying a GUN strapped to their side, wearing, blue jeans and saying "howdy, partner." It's just not. So this person could have went and bought a sheet, or a plastic sheet. They could have had it in their car. We just don't know. Hey Libby, good to see you.
Dr. Hoover, taken into custody, considered a person of interest, but then released. And months went by until we hear in, I believe it was September, that cops were confident that by the time snow hits the ground, we were going to have either a suspect in custody or at least a name of someone who they could point to as being their most likely perpetrator. But here we are, the end of November, beginning of December, and we have yet to hear that name. And is it clear from investigators whether the notification in September refers back to that original person of interest, or did a subsequent person come up during the course of the investigation? It's not 100% clear, but from what I understand, it does seem like a subsequent person has cropped up, but the investigation really is ongoing, and the police are playing this very, very close to the vest. They have released very little information. A lot of what we have gleaned about the crime scene and the crime itself has been taken from the autopsy report, which again makes it seem like this was a very targeted, very personal attack. It sounds like he was murdered almost execution style. Found dead in the attic crawl space, shot twice in the back of the head. There was a person of interest that was originally arrested but was released, and no one has been charged. But again, they say they have a suspect but have not named that.
I have looked everywhere. I cannot find the suspect. I don't know who they arrested. If anyone knows, please let me know. The first person. I have no idea. I can't find it. Green Grandma said, how am I 30 minutes from this case and just now hearing about it, unless there was a little blip on local news when it first happened? Thanks for sharing, Justin. I will look more closely now. Green Grandma, there's been a lot of people, I guess, from, the Detroit area and in chat today, and they said they've never heard about it. And I'm like, how have you not, it hasn't been big on social media, but Justin, this area is the Detroit, is in the Boston Edison area. It is a different, well-to-do area. There's a lot of cameras, and most folks living there have surveillance cameras as well. And I don't know if he had any. I don't know if he had any cameras. I don't think he did. They haven't mentioned that whatsoever.
Suspect. Now, the original call here, he lives by himself. So how is it that investigators end up going to his home and finding him? It was a welfare check, a request for a welfare check from a family member. He was supposed to meet up with some family members and didn't show up. And immediately, of course, they became concerned. This is a reliable man, a reliable doctor, someone that you could count on. And so when he doesn't show up to see his family, they're immediately concerned. Police go for the welfare check, go inside, notice something is amiss, and they find his body in this attic crawl space, covered with a sheet and I believe a rug on top of that, which always kind of struck me as, again, pointing to maybe an intimate partner or someone who at the very least knew him, because
again, he was also found with we'll go back to that in just one moment. He was found with a plastic sheet on him as well. I want to let's look. I don't see any cameras here. You would think that there would be some cameras, but there's not. Let's look if the neighbors have any cameras. let me show you. He lives. I'll show you the entrance to here. Just show you. Do they have cameras? Is that a camera or is that a light? I think that's a light. Let's see if there's any cameras. That's a light. Yep, those are lights. I mean, they don't have really any cameras there. Let me show you the entrance to this property or this street. See, there's a huge church here, right? This is clearly a well-to-do area. What is this? Greater Faith Assembly. I don't know if that's a camera. I don't think it was. All right, let's see if. I wonder if these guys got any cameras. Is there nobody with freaking cameras around here? Is there nobody with cameras? It's like nothing. All right, and you see, you go down here. And so he's the second house on the right. Second house on the right. This is his home. Let's go around and see his backyard. Just a beautiful, beautiful home. It's for sale right now, currently, or it was for sale. Gated. Oh, let me lower the music. Okay. Yep, there you go. Sorry, I had to do it when the thing was on. Music down. I got it. Okay. This is his backyard. It's obviously gated. It's was for sale for $2.5 million. And there is just, you see, you go around back, and it's like a driveway with there. Just doesn't make any sense. I wonder if this. Nothing. It's really sad. Really sad. Surprised it's not more expensive. Yeah. Does he have any living relatives? It doesn't seem like it. Not that I'm aware of. It doesn't seem like it.
You often, as you know, not only cover the body, but you tend to, it kind of indicates remorse sometimes.
And did they indicate anything was taken from the home? Because you go inside a mansion, right? if you would expect to find things of value there, whether it's the artwork that he has there, could be money there, could be jewelry, whatever. People that live in mansions like this obviously will have things of value. Was there any talk of a potential that this was some sort of a...
But it's not a gated community. That's the thing. It's not a gated community at all.
Forced entry or a home invasion or a robbery situation?
You know, Vinny, I can even sort of double down on that theory with the fact that just, I think the day before his funeral, there was a break-in at the house. So you have the crime of this murder and then a subsequent break-in into this mansion. Police have not said if anything was taken, but it does look like the murder was the primary crime, or that he was the primary target.
So he's murdered, and after the murder, then someone breaks into the house. So you've got, I mean, I'm sure huge headlines when the doctor is found dead inside the mansion. It's probably a crime scene for at least a day, I would think, that they're processing it. But then shortly thereafter, someone breaks in.
You know, forced entry from, I believe, the back of the house, someone breaks in, and it's not clear from the police if the break-in is connected or relates back to the original murder, or if, like you said, splashy headlines, vacant house, massive mansion, if someone just took that as a crime of opportunity and tried to break in to see what they could get away with. And police have not indicated if anything was taken, or if it was, what was taken.
And again, as we sit here tonight, the thought is from what has been released that this isn't a cold case. This isn't a case where they've hit a dead end. This is a case where they've got their eye on someone and they're trying to dot the I's and cross the T's and get enough for...
Interesting. D says former patient ? But you never know. You never know. It could be there's doctors, that has been unalived out there. They feel like perhaps, their surgery didn't go as planned, or that they ruined their life. Possibly. You never know. You never know. This person could have, absolutely.
Probable cause, and perhaps enough that they can bring someone to trial.
Yeah, at least as of September, this was certainly not a cold case from the police's perspective. And through the autopsy, we know that fingernail clippings and a rape kit was done. So it could be a case of perhaps DNA results coming back and trying to match something like that. So we know those bits were taken. And so now I think it is just a question of, like you said, dotting the I's, crossing the T's, and making sure that when they make an arrest, it is the right one.
Caitlin Becker, senior reporter, Daily Mail.
Yeah, Lisa, I did not know he was one of 7 children and the only boy, but I do know that they released a person, but I don't know who that person is. You get what I'm saying?
.com. Great to see you. Thank you so much. We'll be speaking again really, really soon. All right, folks, when we come back, we'll bring in our investigators to take a look at some of the information that's been released, including some of the findings from the autopsy, which are very significant. Plus, coming up next hour.
He was pew-pewed. Pew-pewed.
Of this murder, which again was this mansion owned by the doctor. The decedent, Dr. Hoover, was found nude and in a prone position in a crawl space in his home, covered with a comforter, sheet, and rug. So
it makes you think this person who did this knew the home rather well, right? They put him on the very top, right? They moved this person to where they didn't, want him found. It took time to find him.
in the middle of the living room, not in his bedroom, was put into the crawl space. His clothing consisted of a black sock on the right foot. fingernail clippings and samples for a rape kit were obtained and retained. Let's bring in our investigators. Joining us tonight, folks, in Los Angeles, California, retired FBI Special Agent Bobby Chacon. In Jacksonville, Alabama, forensic death investigator, professor of forensics at Jacksonville State University, and host of the...
So, someone just asked, shoot, I couldn't live there alone. Even two peeps, I wouldn't want a huge place. So, wait, was he R? We don't know. They did an R kit. I do believe it was a scorned lover, most likely, but we still don't know. There is probably, hopefully, going to be an arrest on this any day now. They said that they would tell us who by the first snowfall. Well, we are long past that in January, right, of 2024. So we had to go ahead, housekeeping, cooks, on and on and on and on, right? Yeah. Allegedly, he told one of his neighbors that, he found it a little eerie to live there by himself in such a big house, but and they're going to talk about the autopsy here. But others refute that, saying he would not be afraid at all.
Body Bags podcast, which did do an episode on this. Joseph Scott Morgan is with us. And in Michigan City, Indiana, private investigator, founder of Victims News Online, Erica Morse, is with us. Great to see everyone. Okay, Bobby Chacon, I'll begin with you. Welfare check is how this really began, right? You go inside this house. He's found in a crawl space. What does that tell you, if anything, about what may have happened or who, what type of person we may be looking for here?
Well, it tells me a couple of things. It tells me, obviously, they wanted the body not to be found. They wanted to hide it as long as they could. It also tells me they may have some familiarity with the house. A house that big, the crawl spaces are usually way up. Obviously, they're accessed through the upper floors. So depending on where the murder happened, it tells me the person could have been and might likely have been familiar with the house and where that crawl space was. Obviously, they had to have known it was there to put the body there. So that's what you start looking at. You start piecing up, is this someone that's been in the house before? Did they know where this crawl space was? They had to know it was there. Did they stumble across it, or did they know it was there and then bring him there? So preliminarily, you start putting those kind of pieces together.
Joseph Scott Morgan, looking at the scene here, and what happened. They don't believe necessarily that anything was taken, right? You've got this house, and you look at this house, I mean, there are just things of value everywhere. Yeah. Yet they don't believe this was a robbery.
Yeah, what would be the motivation behind this, other than, I think, at least from my perspective, some kind of intimate connection. The most chilling bit of this, is, as Bobby had mentioned just a moment ago, I think that this speaks to familiarity with a structure this size, 13,000 square feet. But the fact that Dr. Hoover was absent his clothing, that's a kind of a telltale for me. And
again, like I said, was it someone who, he was in a sexual relationship with, or was it someone just trying to add evidence?
Caitlin had mentioned earlier in the earlier segment that you've got this covering that's going on. When he's actually discovered in a prone position, which means face down. So his face is certainly not in view. In my experience, when you're working with the dead and you come across a case like this, if the face is obscured in any way, we actually have a term called face covering with that. But they went an extra step, Ben. They covered the body in these layers. I think that we have a sheet. I had heard a comforter as well and a carpet. So you've got this layering that's going on as well. It just smacks of intimacy to me.
Erica Morris, I want you to take a listen to the Chief of Police, James White.
I'll tell you what led to the welfare check. A member of the family called because he did not show up at an event that he was expected to show up at. When the officers arrived on the scene, they were quickly concerned about some of the things that they saw. And as a result, they went into the home, and the rest is where we find ourselves today.
What are those things that they saw? That's the question.
Erica Morris, the things that they saw, right? They're doing a welfare check, which are relatively common, but they see things that lead them at some point eventually to the attic, to this crawl space. But the things that they saw, crucial in this case.
Crucial, and what I would expect is that there was some type of an indication of a struggle. Caitlin mentioned it earlier. This home was meticulous, and so for things to be out of place certainly would have caught their attention. I have a friend who's actually in Detroit, who's been working this.
Bree, who gets the house? The highest bidder. The highest bidder.
Story on the ground ever since it happened. Talked with her a little bit today, and she really feels that the indicator coming from local law enforcement is very similar to that of what we saw in Moscow, Idaho, was that everybody's kind of assuming that law enforcement isn't doing a whole bunch here. Oh, they really are. They're working a lot behind the scenes. They're remaining tight-lipped because I think they have a really good indicator of who did this, but also they don't want to tip off that individual that they're that close, or that they're as close as they are. This person clearly had familiarity not only with the house, but was comfortable enough to be in it for an extended period of time. We talk about, and I think we're mentioning it later, how long it takes to drag a body with dead weight. This was not an act that was committed in a matter of minutes. So this is definitely someone that felt comfortable enough to have free reign. And I think when they first got into that scene, they saw indicators that something was clearly wrong.
Bobby Chacon, let me ask you and follow up on what Erica is talking about here. If you've got a situation now where
I don't know if he owed a lot. I mean, I don't know if he had a will. I'm sure he did, but I'm sure he owed quite a bit of the home, and who could afford. Just because he's a neurosurgeon doesn't mean the rest of his family has money, right? So, yes, Mandy, dragging dead weight is some serious stuff. I had to drag a drunk person into their house after they passed out in the yard. It's very hard. People doesn't realize it is hard.
Someone is in there and is comfortable, familiar, etc. They had to know each other. So how difficult is it to dive into someone's life to figure out what's going on in his life and who he's interacting with, number one? And number two, if they have someone specifically in mind, how close of an eye will law enforcement keep on that person to make sure that they don't leave and abscond?
Well, first of all, I agree with Eric. I think they have who they think it is. And I think we've heard something like that from the chief, who's saying we're working close with prosecutors. They've given us kind of a checklist to go down for this person. And I think that
our loved ones were to celebrate the life of slain Detroit neurosurgeon Devon Hoover. His home was broken into. Detroit police said an unknown suspect broke into Hoover's home in the Boston Edison district overnight, sometime between Saturday and Sunday. No one was home during the break-in, and it's unknown at this time whether items from the house were stolen, according to police. Police did not say whether the break-in was connected to the killing due to the active investigation. What do you think of this post-murder break-in?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of things can be opined about, relative to this. Was it something in order to go and clean up afterwards or to pick up evidence or to collect something, perhaps. I have no idea. I think that that's something that they would look very closely at. And also it's very bold, isn't it? When you begin to think about this, this is not something that you would normally see in a crime scene where you might have an individual that had come back for something, perhaps. One other thing I think I'd like to point out here is back to these coverings. I'd be very interested to know if there's any kind of dynamic deposition of blood, particularly on that carpet, that the carpet was used perhaps to wrap the body in, because it's where, you know, he may have been killed upon that surface. In order to obscure that, were they trying to hide evidence vis-a-vis that? We know that he sustained gunshot wounds. Was there an attempt to pick up spent brass at the scene, which are the expelled shells, empty shells that would have been ejected at the scene if it was a semi-auto that was used? I think that all of the stuff is being considered by Detroit PD at this time.
All right, our investigators are staying with us. We've got more to talk about, because when we come back,
an idea gunshot wound that Dr. Hoover sustained was at a distance. It's indeterminate, so that means that there's no soot deposition, no powder deposition. I've got a mock-up of a skull that we use here at Jacksonville State, just to kind of give you an idea of where this tracks from. So when you're thinking about the first gunshot wound that was sustained, the wound track is actually from the back of the skull to the front, and it is actually entering right here in the parietal area and forward to the temporal area. Now, this is at an indeterminate level. You can't, or range. That is that the end of the muzzle, there's a high probability that the end of the muzzle was at least 18 inches away when this was fired. So if you just think about talcum powder kind of floating through the air, you're not going to get the deposition. However, that changes when you move back here to the occipital area, the left occipital area of the skull. This is this bony prominence on the back of your head. This, however, was apparently a contact gunshot wound. So you have this first shot that begins on the right parietal area. This is this big bone right behind your ear, and goes forward to the right temporal area. And it's probably at a distance. The next one, or with them hovering over him. And then the next one's up close. It's kind of the coup de grace, if you will. And here's something interesting, Vinny, that I discovered while reading this report. It's the idea that in both of these wound tracks, there's hemorrhage in both of these wound tracks. What that tells me is that these were sequentially quick, boom, boom, like this, so that you're still going to have the opportunity for hemorrhage to form in the second track, as opposed to this being a post-mortem event where they go back and say, you know, well, maybe after a few minutes, I want to make sure that he's deceased. This happened very quickly because you've got hemorrhage in both of the wound tracks.
Erica Morse, the body was dragged in a prone position after his.
So this person might have been in bed at the person's scene. This was, rapid fire, boom, boom, right? And that was it. This wasn't a person that pew-pewed, shot one time and then went back to make sure this person was really, this was boom, boom, that's it. I wonder how Matthew and Spanish. Yeah, listen to this.
Death. This is another significant part of what happened here and what it takes to be able to do that. Now, I don't know if adrenaline could get someone of small stature to be able to do that, or if we're looking for someone who's larger. Either way, this is an important factor in everything. They didn't shoot him and then just leave. They dragged that body.
Correct. And forgive me, because following JSM on a convo like this is not easy. Listen, in training, I learned it from SAR training. You're looking for a 120-pound dead weight body. You're feeling double that weight when you're trying to move that. This was, I think, adrenaline probably did play a part in that. I'm having a hard time wondering, was there a second person involved in this, or was there someone called to help and assist? We don't know, again, what that crime scene looked like. But just, me as a woman, I think I would have a really hard time setting up that scenario after the fact unless I had help. So it'll be interesting to see just the size of this individual and if they acted alone. But again, not my wheelhouse, Bobby.
So she thinks that if this person wasn't adrenaline, carrying this person up the steps, multiple flights of steps, then this person may have gotten help. I personally don't think this person got help. I think this was adrenaline. This was probably a younger to middle-aged man who was a jealous lover, and that's it, pretty much. Hopefully, we're going to be getting an arrest on this. I will be following this case as it continues. So, very interesting case. It hasn't been talked about much on It Was a One-Man Job, Drew thinks. Did the house have a dumbwaiter? Good question. Good question. I don't know. That's a good question, though. Maybe an elevator. You never know. But I'll try to look more into the home and see if that happens in the next live I do on this. So, yeah. All right, y'all. Well, thank you all for being with me. I appreciate it. I'm getting ready to go live on my other channel, Clutch Them Pearls, in just a matter of a few minutes. So catch me over there, Clutch Them Pearls. I'm going to be going live. I wasn't going to, but I just got a video and it really upset me about Andrew. So, did he take in a roommate? Nope, no roommates, no roommates. So, thank you all, appreciate it. He was nasty today. Well, the video that I was just sent that someone clipped, it's really bad. Really bad. Love you all. I'll see you guys in just a little bit. See you soon. Bye-bye.